Hey everyone, my name is Ilya Karyukin and I'm recording, mixing and mastering engineer with master's degree, and currently I'm on my internship in Portugal, and on this channel I'm making videos where I talk with the camera, and I also will be making some tutorials on Logic Pro on my approaches to some production things, to tips how to optimize Logic and how to mix and master the music. This is my first time over here recording my screen, recording myself, recording audio of me speaking. And today I created, which consists just out of 3 elements, and I will show you how I'm mixing that. It's very simple, it's just kick, 808 bass and Rhodes. I will play you how it sounds before any processing and after, and then I will show you each step it took me to achieve that sound, and I will explain you what's my approach and why I'm doing certain things. Let's go to the computer. So this was without any processing, and now I will engage all plugins and unmute the parallel channels. So let me disengage all the processing once again, and also the parallel sends. And where it all began, I just picked some samples, some loops of the 808, and I added them to the project. Excellent 808. It has really good low end, good transient attack on the sound, and my approach to that comes from the trick I learned at my internship at Arte Recorders. There we have a large Neve console, and how we usually record bass, it really depends on the context, but once I saw a very nice technique, it was getting the DI signal into the console, then creating a parallel send and sending that through a tube preamp cranked up, generating lots of distortion, and this was mixed and it was electric bass. And for another time, how it was made, it was a double bass recorded with 2 microphones, one picking the body of the double bass and the second microphone picking up the slight details, articulation of the instrument. It was processed on the console. It was 2 channels brought up, amplified, and then sent into Retro 176 tube compressor, and it was like a 3rd channel that was mixed into the context, adding really nice low end and gluing both signals together. My approach with this 808 was hybrid. First, I started with adding preamp to the 808, adding some harmonics to replicate the signal arriving into the preamp section, into the channel strip. And if we engage that, it will sound like this. So it added some low end, some harmonics, a little bit of distortion. So it's already sound fuller, nicer, and I'm liking what this plugin does. And the next thing is me replicating the overdriven parallel channel with the same 808 signal. So we have it running through the console, adding warmth and harmonics, and we're sending it then to the parallel channel. Here I'm getting it to bus 10. I'm activating the channel. So now we have 2 signals, 1 and 2. It became louder, and now on this channel I put UAD 610. This plugin is currently free. It was on sale. And for me, it was a good opportunity to grab it. I already used to have a 610B version of this preamp, and I really liked how it overdrives, how it saturates, what it gives to the signal. And here I'm adding lots of harmonics and overdrive to that parallel channel. I engaged mic mode and pad minus 20 dB. In this setting, it adds the most of the color. It overdrives quickly. And then I have flexibility to work with dry and wet control by manipulating two faders of the original signal and overdriving. I liked it at minus 3.8. And my next step was to sum these two channels together. So the channel that's saturating over the console and the channel that's overdrives over the other preamp on the parallel channel. So how I done it? I created bus 20, and by activating that, I'm sending both channels to bus number 20, where I put beautiful plugin, Electronics LA2A, very close to that tube sound of Retro 176. And now I will play this 808 with processing, and I will be muting these parallel channels, engaging them and disengaging. So you can hear what it's actually adding. And my next step was to sum all these new generated signals, the original, the parallel distorted channel, and compressed sum of these channels. Now I'm taking all these three channels and I am summing them into one stereo bus. And there I can glue all these channels together and make some EQ moves and shape the sound to desired volume. And first of all, I'm starting with Pulsar IPA25 plugin, which is a model of API 2500 compressor. And I will disengage all the modules so we can start listening and engaging each of them step by step. Let's engage the plugin. First, I'm compressing. Then I'm adding some clipping. Then I'm adding extra distortion. And then I'm adding some extra sparkle with sidechain. With that mode, I can bring more attention to the low mids and open the sound even more. Let's bypass the plugin. It's adding extra loudness, extra volume of sound, but it's not a problem for me. It's how I usually use these tools. sometimes I'm using them to gain even more loudness. And I can compensate that with output gain. I know everything like that. But in this case, I didn't want to compensate the gain. I wanted to achieve more gain, to compress and bring the volume up. So that's the point of the limiting. Next step is Pultec EQ. Here I'm adding low end at 100 Hz and I'm boosting at 3 kHz and also attenuating at 5 kHz. So this gives me also, it helps the low end to bloom, and at 3 kHz boost adds me a little sparkle, something in the low mids. It's actually the high mids, but it also helps to open sound and bring it forward. So with compressors, I'm taming some content, so it was compressing, and now I want to EQ and open it back. And the last plugin I'm using is FabFilter Pro Q3, which helps me to bring the lows of that 808 even more forward. So let's listen how this sounds with and without all the processing we made on the 808 bus. This sounds louder, fuller, more harmonically rich, cohesive, and that's exactly the sound I was aiming for. And next thing was for me to shape the kick. And let's listen how the kick sounds with the bass. If we still in the production mode, if we still have opportunity to change the ADSR of kick, of snare, of any other sample, if that's the electronic music, then I'm highly recommend to do that. And this initially helps to shape the transient and shape the tone of the kick and help it to cut through the 808s even smoother, even better. And how I was approaching the kick processing, I started with API channel strip, and I'm using this plugin mostly because of its. So let's listen how the kick sounds with and without the API channel strip and EQ. I really like the sound, what we are achieving. It makes the kick punchier, it makes it cut through even better. It already removes a lot of clashing frequencies that been between this 808 and the kick. Over here in this plugin, I'm also using microphone amplifier instead of line, and I'm attenuating that with pad and output fader, and I'm also compressing a little bit even without showing anything on the meter. It changes the sound, it changes the amplitude of that. And I'm also using high pass and low pass filters. I engage them, and this limits the bandwidth of kick spectrum, which is up to my liking. And the next plugin I'm using on the kick is IPA25. This helps me to limit the kick. Let's listen how it sounds. So as you can see, I'm shaving off just half dB of that kick. It's a very little portion. It's just a little bit, but it helps a lot, this kick, to cut through the mix. But I don't need to use any sidechain, any other technique, but limiting and clipping, sometimes distortion and saturation, helps to bring some frequencies forward and shape the sound with frequencies. So bass have one series of exaggerated amplified frequencies, and kick have in his own frequency spectrum, and this way they are not clashing. Otherwise they will be like this. And with distributing frequencies with saturators, I can achieve something like this. So instead of hiding, they can come and fill the gaps in between of each other and help the sounds to cut through even better. And last but not least, plugin on my kick channel is Dimension Expander. This is used on very subtle setting, but it also helps to add some stereophony on this kick. It's very subtle to realize it's in stereo, but it's enough to spread the kick, and it helps to cut through even better. Let's listen. Perfect. And what I'm doing next is I'm adding a parallel channel with very aggressive compression. It's 1176 Ref A, and let's listen what it adds. My purpose was to add lots of volume and make this kick as punchy, as heavy as possible. Without. With. And next, let's listen how the kick, the 808, sounds with Rhodes, and I will show you how I am processing Rhodes. So first of all, I engage the filters. This helps the Rhodes to be in place in one frequency slot. And then I'm adding a bell on top to open up the sound. Then I'm adding a little bit of low end. And I'm reducing the low mid so 808 can hit even harder. I like it. And next thing is also Dimension Expander. When I heard this Rhodes VST, I immediately realized it's not wide enough and I want to achieve wideness. How I can do it? Ideally, I will reamp the sound. I will have the speaker in a room and place 2 microphones and play that sound and record the reflections and layer them down back in the project. I don't have this option right now, so I'm generating these wideners with dimension expansion. Let's listen. It opens the sound, it spreads it out nicely to our liking, and then I'm helping the sound to stay longer in the air with 1 delay and reverb. I'm using Replica XT by Native Instruments, and I used millisecond mode and I adjusted feedback so it sustains in the air for as long as I wanted it to extend. And final step is I'm adding a little bit of pure plate reverb, and it starts to sound like this. I'm also color coding the Plate and Replica XT plugins and create a track. I'm having them over here. And next I can sound them up into Rhodes bus. And also let's change the icon for Rhodes. This way I'm very flexible, and now I can EQ the whole thing, the effects, the Rhodes itself, and having then signals on the bus. I have control over the loudness of all channels and extra processing that I can make. So now I refined the gains, the structure of our effects, of our expansions, of our parallel channels. I played with faders. I tried to add some movement to the sound, and now we are ready to move forward with this track. We can start adding even more layers, even more samples, or create harmonies with VSTs, or record instruments, or add vocals. Thank you very much for watching my tutorial as my first video. And if you find it useful, if there is some tricks, techniques that you might apply in your project, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, leave comments, and this will help a lot this channel to grow and motivate me to record even more videos like this and go deep dive into the production and show how to do it, what are the things, and what is the logic behind this creative process. Have a good day and see you next time. Bye.